I'm Janet Clark, and you are listening to the Sales Matchmaker Podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Sales Matchmaker Podcast. I am Janet Clark, your host, and I am the Sales Matchmaker, also the CEO and founder of The Freedom Shift. So I have this podcast here where we talk about how to help coaches, consultants, and high-ticket salespeople to increase their sales, and also how to bring a salesperson on into your business. If you are a coach or a consultant, how to know whether your business is ready for a salesperson and how to determine the best way to actually bring that person on board. So today I have a really cool topic. We're going to be talking about what I call my 10-point checklist for making sure that you are salesperson ready. So how do you know when is the right time to add a salesperson to your business? And maybe you've already given it a stab and it hasn't worked out very well, which very often when I talk to coaches and consultants, that's the case. They've already kind of gone through a couple of people and it hasn't worked and they're not sure why. And they're a little gun shy at this point. So no matter whether you are at the point where you're hoping that your next step is going to be to bring on a salesperson, or you are wondering why you're struggling to bring on a salesperson, hopefully this checklist is going to help you. So let's jump into this. Because it's a checklist, I think it would be a really great idea for you to get some sort of a notepad, whether you do that electronically or whether you do that with paper. But it would be great to be able to jot down these 10 key areas. And here's the thing that's most important to recognize. Commission salespeople need to be able to make money. So you are not ready, and this is at a high level, you are not ready to bring on a salesperson if in your mind you're hoping that the salesperson is going to help you figure out how to sell your program, right? So if we're even considering having being at the point where you would want to think about bringing a salesperson, you already have to have a business that's doing somewhere around the six figures. So that's the little caveat that you should understand. Because let me tell you, if you are just producing leads and you can't sell to those leads and you haven't been able to get your business off the ground, you are just going to burn a salesperson out really quickly with tire kickers, and it will end up being a churn and burn situation, which you don't want to do, because that will give you a bad reputation in the marketplace and nobody is going to want to come in and sell your program. So, okay, let's jump into what are these 10 things. Number one is your offer. You have to have an irresistible offer, and you have to know who your target client is for that offer. So the offer really is the key to your success, because if you are one of these people that every time you get on the phone, you are customizing some kind of a solution based on what this person is telling you that they need, right? Your prospect, then that's not duplicatable. A salesperson can't sell that. So what you have to be able to do is create an offer in such a way that it is your signature system, that you're offering in a specific way to your clients. And there can be some component of individualized one-on-one in there, but it has to be a very clearly defined offer. So that's number one, irresistible offer. Number two is you must know who your ideal client is. So we'll call that your avatar. You have to be able to identify the characteristics of that avatar so that that is easily definable for your salesperson, so they can go out and they can find those people and they can qualify them to know whether they are talking with the right person. So it's really important that you do the work around that ideal client and make sure that you can explain to your salesperson who your target market really is. and what that client looks like and how they would be able to identify whether the person they're speaking with is an ideal client. Okay. The third thing is you must have a track record of success. If your program is not proven yet, then you're not ready for a salesperson. So you want to have a proven program that you've already sold at a high ticket level, ideally somewhere around $5,000 or more, and you've gotten results for your prospect or your client. So if you've been able to deliver results, you've been able to sell it, then it's time for you to consider that you would be able to sell more if you were to bring on a salesperson. One of the other things about that track record of success is that because you have the track record of success, you're going to be able to create some case studies and some testimonials, and those will become tools for your salesperson to use. Okay, number 4 is you must have an online presence. So we know that coaches and consultants are offering their services online. So that's the world we're in, that's the world we're targeting, and those are the people I'm talking to right now. But what does your online presence look like? Do you have a fair amount of content out there that people can actually access when they go search for you? Do you have an updated LinkedIn profile? Do you have a Facebook group or some sort of a following and presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, somewhere? If somebody does a search for you, do you have a YouTube channel? Like, what is your online presence and what does that look like? Because if there's nothing out there that somebody can go and do their research on you, the salesperson doesn't really have any way to get people enrolled in your program. You haven't done the marketing that you need to do to build up your brand and your recognition in the marketplace. So there's ways to do that. We help clients do that all the time, but it's just really important that that is in place before you bring on a salesperson. Okay, the next thing, we're on number 5 in our checklist, is systems. What systems are you using to generate leads? What system are you using to qualify your prospects? What system are you using to enroll people into your program? And what system do you have for onboarding people once they are enrolled into your program? So it's extremely important that you work those things out before you bring the salesperson on, because it's not up to the salesperson to create those processes for you. They're here to enroll clients into using the systems you already have. Now, we do have in our Sales Map program, I do help my clients to create those systems if they don't have them in place, but we have to do that before we can match them up or match you up with a salesperson. So that's extremely important. Number 6 is, do you have a roadmap? Do you have some kind of a plan of how you are going to grow your business? Now, we call this the sales map. But what it includes is this capacity and commission planning. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you bring a salesperson on, do you have the capacity for them to sell twice the number of clients you already have, 3 times the number of clients, 10 times the number of clients? Do you have a way to scale? And have you built in the financial resources that you're going to need to grow, including being able to pay commissions? So is there some margin within your offering to be able to afford to bring a salesperson on? Now, again, this is something that you can accomplish by maybe increasing the price of the program at the point when you bring a salesperson on, but you have to have a super duper offer in order to raise your price. So you have to do something about the value of the program so that you will be able to raise the price and cover the cost of a salesperson. Number 7 is this onboarding process. Now, look, your salesperson needs to know that the minute they close that sale, you are going to grab a hold of that person and you are going to cement the fact that they made an amazing, great decision. Because very often, after somebody makes this emotional big leap of faith and invests in themselves, they have this feeling of remorse, like they get scared. It's fear that comes up. And if you do not embrace that client right away, reinforce that buying decision, get them immediately engrossed into your program and feel embraced, you have a very high probability that they're going to fall off. So we have to make sure that you have a really good onboarding process and that the selling proposition that you're giving to the salesperson to what you're going to offer is actually happens on the back end. So look, the worst thing that can happen is for your salesperson to bring people in and then have them ask for a refund or complain later to the salesperson that they weren't happy with the results that they got when they came into your program. Because psychologically, that's going to stop the salesperson dead in their tracks from wanting to stand in the fire with people and get them enrolled in your program, because they have to have this strong conviction that your program is amazing and that it's going to work for people. And so that has to happen after they make the sale. Okay, the next thing is you must have leadership skills. Now, great salespeople, literally, they're mavericks and they bring a ton of energy into your business and a lot of enthusiasm onto your team, but they're not easy to manage. Mavericks are people who are kind of like ADD in a way, right? They're just enthusiastic, overwhelmingly go-getters, but they don't do well in any kind of a confined system, right? So you have to be careful about the way that you lead these people. And it is important, though, that they can't be left totally on their own. So there has to be communication, there has to be collaboration, and there also has to be a strong level of trust, because these people need a good salesperson needs the autonomy to be able to be themselves and to represent your company and to use their own personality in the mix. But at the same time, they do need to trust that you've got their back and that you trust them, and that two-way communication has to be really strong. So that is really ties back to you really understanding how to be a dynamic leader. And again, it's something we put into our program in Sales Map because we recognize that very often people don't know how to lead very well. They don't know how to take care of their sales team. And they tend to fall either into two camps. One being they do nothing and they just let the salespeople float around out there on their own, or they try to micromanage the salespeople, and neither one of those things are going to work. Okay. Number 9 is you must be willing to let go. And I say this with all the love because I understand how hard this is. So I always say to coaches and consultants, and I make sure the salespeople realize this too, it's kind of like when the first time a coach or a consultant lets a salesperson represent their business to a prospect, hands their leads over to a prospect, it's almost like the first time you bring your baby to daycare. You are freaking out. It is hard to let go. But until you do that, you are not going to be able to scale your business. So your salespeople have to be able to be independent of you. They may explain things a little differently, and their work habits may be a little different than yours, and they may just be more exuberant or have a different way of interacting with people than you do. But you have to be willing to let them do that. And that has been one of the things that is so hard for a lot of coaches and consultants because you're used to selling your program in a certain way. You think that's the only way. And I'm going to tell you that most coaches and consultants, when they do their own selling, they're doing an awful lot of coaching on those calls as well. They're actually bringing a lot of their skills and what they deliver into the sales conversation, which is really not the best way to be selling. You probably would actually do better if you didn't do that. But because you know your own program so well, you're going to tend to fall into that trap of doing some coaching when you're on the call. So the salesperson's not going to do that because they're not you and they don't know your process the way that you know it. So they're going to sell a little bit differently, which is actually probably going to be better, but you don't know that yet. So you have to have some faith and trust and willingness to let go. Okay, and finally, number 10 is you should have your own trusted advisor when you go through this process of bringing in the salesperson. Because if you listen to those things that I just told you, the other 9 things that are so important to have in place before you actually are going to succeed in bringing on a salesperson, you probably realize that you're going to need some help in some of those areas. And for most people, they need someone who can advise them, a trusted advisor, a mentor, to get them through those processes. Somebody who can be almost the intermediary between the salesperson and you. So I'm not a big believer that you need a sales manager because I believe that a great salesperson is self-managed, and with the right leadership from your part and the right communication, it's all going to work out just fine. But there is a transition point, and that is when you really do need to have somebody who's helping you through that. Now, as you know, that actually is what I do. So as the sales matchmaker, I've been through this process a number of times. So how do I know the things that need to be in place? Well, I've lived it. I've been there. And I absolutely can see where some of these coaches and consultants fall down in terms of getting a salesperson on board. So very often in the matching process, the first person isn't the best person. And we may have to go through 1 or 2, sometimes 3 to get the really right person in there. But most of the time, if you have somebody who's helping you through this process, you are going to get to that right person quicker. And the whole process will be really smooth because it takes a few months. But once that connection is made, once you guys are kind of doing the dance together, you've learned to communicate, the feedback is a two-way loop. You're able to feed back to the salesperson what kind of people they're bringing in, and if those are good clients for you, they're able to feed back to you what kind of objections they're getting, what kind of things people are saying, so that you can kind of work on your marketing a little bit to answer some of those things. That is when you can get a very, very good functioning salesperson and be able to create that freedom for yourself so that you can step out of the sales role and trust that you have a great person in there who can do your enrollments for you. And then you can focus on what you do best, which is serving your clients, coaching your clients, consulting with your clients, and scaling your business. So that's my 10-point checklist for this week's episode. I think it's pretty comprehensive. If anybody has any comments, you want to talk to me about it, you have some thoughts, just always feel free to reach out. I love to chat with people. I say this almost every week. I'm available, Janet@thefreedomshift.com, or you can connect with me over on Facebook. I have my group, the High Ticket Sales Collaborative. Come on over and join that. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm over there. And one way or another, let's keep this conversation going. Tell me what it is that you want to know more about so that in future episodes, I can address those things as well. But for now, I just want to say have a wonderful, happy selling week. And come back next week because we'll have another awesome episode. And until then, bye for now. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Sales Matchmaker Podcast. To hear more episodes, visit us at www.thesalesmatchmaker.com.